What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today, we're gonna take a look at my performance at the Shogun Winter Tournament that is still ongoing right now, and I did yesterday. As you guys can see, I did not perform that well. I actually did end up losing, and there was a lot of misplays that I did. And I actually do have clips from that fight that I want to show you guys. So hopefully, you guys are able to learn from my mistakes and become better players, both at drafting and just knowing what to do in different scenarios. I'd like to take this time to also thank Shogun for actually inviting me to his winter preliminary. It was a lot of fun. Make sure you check out his channel too. So I'll link the description to his channel and just make sure you watch the tournament. It's still going on. It's still hype and it's still really fun. And you guys should watch if you want to become better. But as far as my performance, I am very disappointed with myself. The nerves got the better of me, and I know a lot of you guys were rooting for me, and I'm so sorry. The thing that makes me the saddest is that you guys were rooting for me, and I feel like I just let all of y'all down. But hopefully you guys are able to learn from my mistakes, and you guys know what they say, no saga, no story is complete without failure. So hopefully from these failures moving forward in other tournaments, I'm able to become a better player and help you guys as well and just continue the saga. But yeah, we're gonna be breaking down my fights, which I actually did record, and I did ask Shogun, and he did let me. If you learned something from today, hopefully you guys don't hate me as a YouTuber now because I pig at my fights. So hopefully you guys still want to help out the channel. So make sure you subscribe if you like the content. And if you like what I'm doing, Robbie Full Guy should be coming tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe for that. And like the video too if you learned something from the video. But alright, enough about that. Let's actually take a look at the fights and the disaster and what happened. So I'll take a look at the first one because I actually was pretty happy with the first one. We'll talk about how I drafted, and then afterwards also talk about what things I could have done better for the second and the third fight, which is the ones that I actually lost. So I banned the RB. If you're wondering why, this was the first match, but I did know that he has a Arbiter Vildred, right? So I had a feeling he didn't have an Emerald Craw, which is why I didn't ban Emerald Craw like I normally do, is because I had a feeling he had Arbiter Vildred, so that's why I chose that. I'm not sure why he chose Dizzy. Oh, also, congrats to this guy for winning. Hopefully he does a lot better. I think he watches the videos too, so props to him. Definitely played really, really well. He played a very consistent team. But I definitely made a lot of misplays. So I don't know if y'all can see the video on the side, but I actually did record myself and I was pretty hype. But as first, so he picked FCC, and I decided to go with Falconeer Cleary Lilius. So if y'all didn't know, the reason why I did this is Lilius is one of the best counters to Falconeer Cleary, and Falconeer Cleary is very oppressive right now. So having access to Falconeer Cleary is really, really strong and can break down a lot of current tank teams. So I wasn't sure if you had Emerald Craw or not. I didn't see. So that's why I had the Falconeer Cleary and the Lilius, of course, to pick off the counter, and also because she's just a solid knight. He does pick the Elena, which I do not have that much matchup experience against Elena. So that's one thing that kind of messed me up moving forward. And he also does pick the Charon. I'm still pretty sure he also did his research on me. So he knew that my Charon is pretty strong and that I like using Charon. So he picks the Charon, and I decided to go a little bit more defensive as well. I picked the Royal because I see a lot of defense. I already have my 2 knights, and now I have to start picking damage dealers. End up picking the Stenny, even though he has Charon, just because I feel like with Ruel and Lilius, I already felt like she was protected, and I didn't want him to pick it up because his Elena would be able to protect it. Here, I don't think it was a good play for him to pick Dark Corvus here, because I still have access to one more unit, and Dark Corvus cannot reach Spectre Tenebria. So he still has to put another AoE threat, because right now my Spectre Tenebria is free, right? He cannot reach my Spectre Tenebria, and he decides to go for Roana. I think he thought I was going to go for Seaside Bellona. I do go for a a.coli, kind of a double stealth, because if I ban the Charon, a lot of people were actually like, oh, did you mess up the draft? No, I felt completely fine in this one. I knew I was going to win from the beginning of this. Why? He has to get rid of Ruel to reach my a.coli or my Spectre Tenebria. So he has to get rid past all these knights to reach my Spectre Tenebria, and he's not going to be able to do that in the time that my Spectre Tenebria will be scaling with Frenzy. I also have the Falconeer Cleary Soulburn to be able to lock down the opponent. So I decided to do it here because I didn't want him getting the S3 before I got my damage off with Spectre Tenebria. He does cleanse the decreased defense, which is very lucky for him because I would have been able to just easily one-shot his, like right here, I would have been easily able to one-shot his Elena, right? So he got lucky, he cleansed the decreased defense instead of cleansing the provoke, which made the fight go a lot longer because his Elena would be alive for a lot longer. He does the S3 with FCC, but he's still not going to be touching my Spectre T, and you see on his side, he has to rely on Dark Corvus. Well, I'm just going to be setting up with Spectre T. I do decide to S3. I need to start setting up. So ideally, this would have been a kill right here, right? But he was able to cleanse off the right, like you guys see there with Decreased defense, that's death, right? So he was lucky that he cleansed it, but at least it keeps him provoked for one more turn. He lands the provoke on my Lilius, which is good for him because he needs to start getting his Dark Corvus. The reason why you see me going for Elena is because I know Elena can actually get rid of debuffs. And for Dark Corvus, for me to be able to win, I know I need to get rid of the Dark Corvus, and I need to fight with the Falconeer Clury. So overall, this fight I played extremely well. I am gonna kind of skip over it. You're welcome to watch Shogun's because it's just a lot of tank stuff. So he does get the S3. Let me skip to a fight that's funner. So right here, he sets up the first Dark Corvus S3. I was kind of sad that my Spectre T actually hit him because it was going to be one more turn that he had to wait. So he is going to be able to take off my Royal, and I still have not killed his Elena. So some people were like, oh, this is looking kind of dangerous. But the thing about it is I have the 2 souls for Spectre Tenebria. I'm completely fine. My Falconeer Clury has been lapping him, right? And he didn't have enough skills to actually take care of me at this point. So at this point, it's like, okay, I can just soul burn, get rid of the SCC, and then get rid of the Elena, because it's Frenzy 4, right? So I'm already starting to do a lot of damage. The hit on the Elena was beautiful. I'm so glad Spectre T did it. And right here with the S3, that's it. That's all she wrote. This Elena is gone, and from here on, this was a pretty much one fight because my Falconeer Clury did not have that many turns for S3, and he knew it too. You guys can see I also soul burned the Lilius here, so I had Lilius and F Clury to lock down, and he's never gonna reach the Spectre T. So good match, right? So I was pretty happy. I was feeling confident. I was like, okay, let's get ready. So he picks up the Spectre T because I think he doesn't have that many AoE units, right? So I pick up the Charon because I'm like, Charon has a good matchup against Spectre T. And as I mentioned, Falconeer Clury is one of the best units right now, and you should definitely build it. So I picked the Falconeer Clury because she's such a solid unit and so versatile that it lets me go off into a lot of different of locations. But disaster is about to start, starting with my next pick here. He goes with a very similar draft, right? He picks Elena, he picks Fon Cecilia, but now he has Spectre T, which is really big threat. I know his Dark Corvus is most likely going to get chosen, so I have to start thinking about it. And I think here I started overthinking too much, and that's something that I need to stop doing. I was overthinking too much on what he was doing instead of focusing on what I was picking. Right? So I was thinking, what do I pick here? And I was like, pick Bazaar. If y'all didn't know, this is terrible for drafting. Do not pick your Bazaar this early unless you are ready to commit to a control comp. Why? An early Bazaar pick like this is basically telling him you can put HU Fiend, you can put all these units, and I have last pick, right? So this was mistake number 1. I should have picked any other unit but Bazaar at this point, because me picking Bazaar right here already commits to me using Bazaar and lets him counter. And he doesn't really put a counter towards it, so he doesn't punish my early Bazaar pick, but that is not good gameplay. That was a mistake on my part. So that's mistake number 1. The a.coli, I was happy with the a.coli pick. The reason why I picked the a.coli is because I had the Bazaar to strip and also to control the souls from the Dark Corvus. And then here, so a lot of people thought this was a bad pick, and I thought it was a really good pick. And I'll talk about why I still felt my draft was strong, because he didn't punish my Bazaar pick. Right now, I still felt pretty confident coming into this fight, right? Because I had a feeling I was like, if he doesn't ban Bazaar, I can just soul burn and kill him. Spectre T, I had a feeling there's a chance he would ban my Charon, and then he has 2 very defensive units, and I only have 1 unit that can actually reach Spectre Tenebria. And he has immunity and cleansing on the Elena, so I was like, let me not risk it. Let me ban the Spectre T so I don't have to worry about trying to get reach in case he does ban Charon. So that was a good play on my part. And he decides to ban the Charon, of course, because if I let the Spectre T2 through, and also Charon counters his Vivian, right? So you may be wondering, was the a.coli a good pick here? And the reason why a.coli was actually a good pick is because he only has 1 unit that can theoretically kill my a.coli, and that's Vivian. So going into this match, the only thing I knew is I need to get rid of Vivian. That's all that was in my mind. And you know, nerves were starting to get to me. I was feeling very confident. I think I was feeling too overconfident. Even though I overdrafted myself, I still had a good draft. But I felt like I was too overconfident, and I did a very big mistake because I was so confident and so nervous at the same time, and I wanted to be hype, and I wanted to like show off. So we go in, right? So we're going in, and right here was the fatal mistake because, as I mentioned, we kill Vivian, we win, right? So I had 2 options: soul burn the a.coli and hope to kill this Vivian that I have no information about. I do not know how tanky she is. She has an FCC barrier and an Aureus protecting her, as we see there with the Aureus. So it's a very risky play, but it just straight up wins me the fight. And I don't know why I just didn't go for the safe choice. But my thought, if you're wondering why I did that, under pressure, I just wanted to win the fight. I just wanted to show off, win the fight. have a hype moment. So I sold my a.coli, which was a very risky play that had probably like a less than 20% chance of success for winning, instead of going for the safe choice, which had been to Silver the Bazaar. Because if you see on the left, my Bazaar is actually slower than his Elena, so that will force him to either waste his S3 on Elena or wait a whole other turn before he can get rid of the Bazaar debuffs. So me sobering Bazaar was 100% win rate for me because his Vivian wasn't going to be able to cut into the Bazaar. So I was in the perfect position to win this game by just doing soul burn on Bazaar. But I decided to go for the more risky play of soul burning my a.coli and trying to go for a one-shot, which is so ridiculously stupid and such a big mistake. It was just a miscalculation, because the thing about it is you might be like, okay, do you not trust your Bazaar? And the thing about Epic 7 is it's a very RNG dependent game, but if you have the opportunity to get a guaranteed win, do it. So at this point, I knew I needed to do this because the effect resistance up. I don't have Bazaar Soulburn anymore. So with the Fakir Clary, I also had to waste my Fakir Clary S3 on this Elena rather than decrease defensing this Vivian at this point, because now if I didn't get the if she did the S3, she would get so much effect resistance that my Bazaar would not be able to land the debuffs, right? So I had to do the S3 on the Elena, but I would not have had to worry about that. Like right here, imagine if I had the Soulburn. We'd be in the same situation, but if I had Soulburn, this Vivian would have gotten pushed back 30%. My a.Tywin would have been able to have a free S3 onto everyone. I could have gotten a full team stun, a full team slow, and there's nothing he could have done about that, and I could have just killed off the Vivian with the a.coli, who's a 275 speed a.coli, and won the fight. But instead, I decided to take the RNG route, and that was my misdoing. I could still have won at this point if my Bazaar had hit the Vivian. That's all he needed to do. His Vivian resisted it. So because his Vivian actually did end up resisting, that was game. Because now I was not able to get my cut in with a.Tywin. I was not able to land the stun with a.Tywin. And from this point forward, the game was over because he has set up immunity and he has his Vivian who's going to be able to reach my a.coli. So as you see here, if you're wondering, oh, look, right now he will not have Vivian or FCC. Right, so my a.coli would not have been revealed here, but even if she had been, she's going to be outspeeding his he's gonna be outspeeding the Dark Corvus, and this Elena is not gonna be able to kill my a.coli, right? So I would have been in a perfect scenario. He also gets a push up here. I do get the RNL, but it was just not enough. He had a very tanky Vivian, so props to him for having such a tanky Vivian. So yeah, 1300. That's pretty beefy. It didn't do as much damage as I expected. So it was a tank Vivian, right? So that's what caught me off guard. And at this point, it is over because she was able to reveal my a.coli again, and it opened her up to 2 more hits. So pretty critical mistake, and then it just went downhill from there because I was so tilted at this point. Right here, I could have done the a.Tywin S3 with the Soulburn, and I didn't. The idea behind this, a lot of people were kind of like asking why was I not doing the a.Tywin S3. The big reason why was because of the Lena heal, but the Lena was freaking provoked. So I don't know why I just didn't do it and get that slow on the whole enemy team and a potential like game-breaking stun. And I could have just cycled the S3, do damage, stun, and just maybe have even won that way. And then the other play where it was kind of like a tragedy, I did end up getting the S3 here. But sadly, I did not land the stun on this Dark Corvus. So that was over. That was game. So if I had landed the stun, he would have still been able to cleanse it here with the S1. So it would have gone on to chance. Again, he didn't actually go for the Dark Corvus. But if I had stunned the Dark Corvus and I had Soulburn, there was a lot of stuff I could have done. So second game, big misplay. At this point, I should have already won, right? But props to him for staying consistent and staying aware. And then the last one. So at this point, I was already pretty tilted, right? So the reason I know I talked about the positive player mentality that I did a long time ago, right? And staying positive, and I should have listened to my own words, and I should not have let nerves get to me, because at this point in the fight, I was so tilted and disappointed with myself and nervous about letting people down and messing up that my draft was absolutely horrible, right? So he's first expected to be again. I fighting Clary and Kayron, which is fine. But the thing about it is, I should have known by this point. He used Elena 2 times, and his Elena was the one that actually was winning him the games and being the massive threat to me. Me banning Elena and letting him pick the RB and then having a different draft would have been a way better strat to do. So I should have banned Elena. So that was mistake one. Under pressure, hindsight 2020, right? So don't beat yourself up over that. So I didn't ban Elena. He picks it again. Very similar draft. It's consistent, right? Why fix what's not broken? And then I make the same mistake of picking Bazaar early because now look how squishy my team is. I cannot deal if he decides to go damage here. And that's what he does decide to end up doing. And I picked the Vivian because I'm so afraid of the Spectre Tenebria. And because I'm locking 2 Earth Heroes, that's an easy Robbie fodder. So him having this is over for me. At this point, I lost the draft. And then instead of trying to fix the draft, trying to put a tank, trying to put something, I pick a freaking Rylan, right? So at this point, the fight is gonna end up like you expected. It was over, right? So big misplace, big GGs. It was over. My run at the Shogun tournament was over, right? So just kind of a summary of everything you guys just saw, right? So let me write down in the notes the things that I could have done better, right? So mistake one, letting nerfs get to me. When you're in a tournament, it's a lot more stressful, and I know hindsight 2020, you know, you can see your mistakes and you can discuss it forever. So me letting the nerfs get to me really messed me up, and it's something that I need to work on as a player. It's not getting nervous at tournaments, because I definitely want to do better in tournaments, right? So that was my mistake number one. Mistake number two, letting myself be tilted. I should not have gotten tilted after the second match. I could still have won, right? I know his draft. I should have focused. I should have taken a deep breath and gone into the third game and been able to win. So that was my complete mistake for letting negativity get to me and letting my nerves get to me. So that was my mistake number two. Mistake number three, play it safe. Don't rely on RNG. So why I say this is because it would have been such an easy game if I had just soulburned the Bazaar that second game. So if I had soulburned the Bazaar in that second game, I would have been able to just not rely on RNG and been able to have won the fight. So always pick the safe option. While you may not get the win and you may not get the hype, and it may be a more boring playstyle, it is so much more consistent to rely on things that you know are going to work than try to go for something risky and high reward, right? So always pick the non-highest risk, but just like a solid option that is probably going to win you the fight. So that was mistake number three. So these three mistakes were my undoing. So hopefully after this video for you guys don't make these same three mistakes that I made as a player. So I'm gonna make videos potentially in the future, kind of going into these more into depth. But just make sure, don't let nerves get to you. Don't get yourself tilted. Try to stay positive and always try to play it safe. Choose something you're comfortable with. I don't use Vivian. Why did I pick Vivian, right? So these were my three fatal mistakes, and I hope that you guys don't make the same mistakes I did in the future. And hopefully you guys learn too some drafting skills, right? So some of the interactions, if you're gonna pick Bazaar, don't pick Bazaar early. And then as far as gameplay stuff, don't pick Bazaar early unless you're willing to commit to control. So that would have been what I needed to do, is not commit to picking Bazaar that early, because it opens myself up to be counterattacked. So very easy to counter if you pick Bazaar, and it doesn't let you tank things out. The other thing is play it safe. Play with what you know. Especially in high stakes situation, if you're really worried about getting a win, I should not have been experimenting in the tournament with Vivian. Alright, I should have just gone with my traditional Ruel, Ravi, a Tywin, and just won the fight, just tanked him out like I normally do, and just out Bruiser him, which is my playstyle, right? An aggressive Bruiser player. So don't play with what you know. And the other that's like the two big ones. Yeah, so that's the two big the things I hope you guys learned. But that is all I have for you guys, and I hope y'all enjoy the video and learn from my mistake. But that's all I have for you guys today, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.